Okay, good morning. If you take a look at the fly sheets, you'll notice that the name for the fly sheet, the professor is Samira Khoury. I am not Samira Khoury. I'm sure some of you have noticed that. So basically, what I'm doing is going to be using this fly sheet, and it's full of good information for you. But what I will try to be doing is introducing you to the latter part of 201, when primarily we move from Greece to Rome. Just, I know all of you are not aware of this, but you're not supposed to use IT stuff either in class and certainly not at a lecture, because it really distracts everybody else around you. So please, say goodbye to your laptops and just for 15 minutes tell them they'll survive without you. What's more fun, relating to humans or relating to the machines? I noticed today mostly people relate to each other when they're sort of sharing something on the mobile or on the IT. There's no longer direct, non-mediated relationships between human beings. And so through that. So if you could please just for 50 minutes sort of part yourself from the machine. It's actually an AUB policy. I don't know whether people police it or not. Okay, so basically we're moving from the first item, therefore, and the first item on the sheets there is the move from Greece to Rome. Basically, this is it's important to know where you are, what kind of a situation you're in, because that affects everything you're doing and what you're reading and the ideas that pop up and about who we are as a human being, the divine, society, politics, economics, etc., depending on the situation you're in. Basically, we've been in the Greek world, in the polis, the world of the polis. This is a rather small community of human beings. Aristotle said no more than 100,000 people to have a proper human community, so that you can really have a human community. Now you'd say 100,000 people and no more than 10,000 mobiles or something. But anyway, basically a human community is 100,000 people. And supposedly everybody was very much involved, all the free citizens, of course, were very much involved with everything that was happening. You saw this, hopefully, with Oedipus and then with Plato and Aristotle. They were all talking about the Greek polis. This is the Hellenic period of the Greek experience, right? At the end of this period with Aristotle became the teacher of Alexander. Anybody know who Alexander was? I know a dog called Alexander, but you know who Alexander was? Skandar al-Kabir, al-Azim, whatever. Okay, so Alexander the Great, Aristotle actually taught him. His father was King Philip of Macedonia, so therefore not Athenian. Now Macedonia, I think, has been split off from the rest of Greece. Basically then, the teacher of Alexander, Aristotle, gives his student all the wisdom he can give him. But Alexander, of course, becomes an emperor. He creates, if you like, what becomes the Greek Empire. As he goes abroad, he spreads the Hellenic view of things that you've been studying, but he incorporates the basic views, the gods and the basic views of each of the cultures of the people that he conquers. And then you get out of this the Hellenistic period. Here in Lebanon archaeology, you can see all of archaeologically you can visit these epochs, in these historical epochs. So the Hellenic, then the Hellenistic, taking the Hellenic and spreading it broader, interacting with other cultures around here in the Middle East and all the way to India. And then what happens now with the Roman Empire, that the Romans conquer Greece, and that's, I think, on the first thing on Professor Khoury's fly sheet. Under number 4, the rise of Rome, conquering the Hellenized East and Romanizing the West. The Hellenization of Rome. Greece defeated, victorious. So Rome conquers the Greeks militarily, but the Greeks conquer the Romans culturally. Therefore, the period we're coming into, and we're going to be introduced to Lucretius and Virgil, two great names in this period, in the Roman period. Basically, therefore, they have inherited the whole of the Greek culture, if you like, but they've inherited the Greek plus, the Hellenistic view, and they then conquered lands beyond what the Greeks had conquered, and they basically continued in this kind of approach. When they conquer a peoples, they don't impose upon them just simply what they have, rather they integrate into their system the gods of those people, and usually they were sort of similar gods, maybe sometimes with different names. And though generally there's a period of cultural integration, and of course the Roman Empire reaches Scotland to the west, and farther over even than India in the east. So primarily we're in now the Roman Empire, and this is very important because you're shifting now from a polis consciousness, and I hope this has become a bit clear to you ever since you did Sophocles, you got into Athens, and Sophocles and Plato and Aristotle, they were all functioning in the Athenian polis, right? That was the ideal situation where humans could be fully human, even without mobiles and IT, the laptops and all this. They could be fully human within this kind of communal interaction, the polis. Now you start to have the cosmopolis, the empire. You now have an empire situation rather than just the individual community situation. This, of course, is going to have great repercussions on the way people think, the way people act, what kind of philosophies they then particularly get attracted to. So in this period now, the philosophies of Socrates, Plato, Aristotle were still there, but the philosophies that became very popular were two other Greek philosophies. So they're not Roman philosophies, they're Greek philosophies. But two Greek philosophies that were never they didn't get widespread attention in the Greek Athenian polis. And these two are Epicureanism and Stoicism. Epicureanism and Stoicism are both Greek philosophies which became popular in the Roman Empire because, as hopefully you will see as I give the lecture I'm going to give today, you will see that Epicureanism and then Stoicism as well. Stoicism is a very important part of the next work you read with the Aeneid, Virgil. The hero of Virgil has often been seen as a typical Stoic hero, Stoicism. These two philosophies had much more appeal than the philosophies of Plato and Aristotle as such, because if you take a look now, flip over to the very last page of your fly sheet. The very last page of the fly sheet where she has an annex on philosophy. Let's take a look at philosophy from this optic. Okay. Pythagoras, a pre-Socratic philosopher, the slavish men go hunting for fame or gain, the philosopher for the truth. Okay, philosophy, the meaning of philosophy is the lover of wisdom, lover of truth, the seeker of wisdom, the lover of wisdom. Plato, the next quotation, philosophy is the greatest gift the gods have ever given or will give to mortals, to inquire into the nature of the universe. Then flip down to Aristotle. They philosophized in order to escape from ignorance. They were pursuing science in order to know, and not for any utilitarian end, pursuing science in order to know, not for any utilitarian end. Hence, philosophy is the only free science, for it alone exists for its own sake. And the Hellenic period and the Socratic, Platonic, Aristotelian influence in philosophy. Move down now to Epicurus. Epicurus is a Greek philosopher, but it was not his type of philosophizing wasn't yet popular until the Roman Empire. Vain, futile, useless is the word of a philosopher which does not heal any suffering of man. For just as there is no profit in medicine if it does not expel the diseases of the body, so there's no profit in philosophy either if it does not expel the suffering of the mind. And the last one from the Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius, where then can man find the power to guide and guard his steps? in one thing and one alone, philosophy. What's the major difference between the emphasis in these two Greek philosophies, the last two from the Aristotelian? Aristotle, we seek philosophy because, it's good to know. Just knowing itself is the intrinsic value. Everything else would be secondary have secondary importance. What's now the most important for Epicurus and for Epicureanism and Stoicism? What does philosophy? Why is philosophy useful? Is it useful just because of the knowledge it gives, for its own sake, for light, for knowledge? See? What does it say? Vain is the word of a philosopher, which does not heal any suffering of man. A philosophy that does not have any effect on you as a human being, to relieve your suffering or the suffering of your mind particularly, of course, is not worth being. A philosophy that doesn't guide you in practical everyday steps, the last two, you're coming now into kind of a period in the Roman world of the cosmopolis, the empire, the global village of today, where people are more naturally attracted to the kind of philosophies that give you a remedy, that give you an immediate way of applying it to yourself, of having, whereas, you see, philosophy had become, by the time of Aristotle, the pursuit of knowledge for its own sake. Ignorance was the big problem of humanity. Remember the cave story. Everybody is in the cave because everybody's ignorant, and nobody knows they are ignorant except Socrates. Socrates is the only one who doesn't know, who's ignorant and knows he's ignorant. Whereas the rest of humanity, philosophers, everybody, not just the uneducated, the cave of Plato. That's what the cave of Plato represents. That basically, taking it from Socrates' view, that because Apollo says Socrates is the wisest man in Athens. Socrates looks at himself, he says, is he talking about me, the wisest man in Athens? So he goes around testing this. And he goes around to all the people who claim to know in the Athenian polis. And he comes to the conclusion, well, Apollo is right. Everybody doesn't know. I know I don't know. So who's superior? Because I know that I don't know. So knowledge begins for Plato, taking it from Socrates, the turn of the prisoner in the cave. It means at some point in your life you become face to face with the fact that you aren't as knowledgeable as you think. And even a philosopher or a greatest thinker, if they don't come to this Socratic shock, they'll never come out of the cave and come into enlightenment. The great problem is ignorance. And therefore the great remedy for ignorance is improve the education system, society system. This was Plato's hope in the Republic. And basically you can get rid of ignorance. The more you get rid of ignorance, the more you can have a successful polis, a successful human community where every human can be fulfilled. Now, in the Roman Empire, now the global village, the challenges are quite different. In a global village, lots of anxiety, so many views all around there. You don't have the sort of protection or the comfort of a relatively small community where basically, you're all on the same page for most important things. Now you're thrown out into the global village where you have to you have to swim in the ocean and figure out what to do. Therefore, Epicureanism and Stoicism, so Lucretius takes over from Epicurus, the Greek philosopher Epicurus. Lucretius is the Roman now, who looks back to Epicurus and considers him, when you're reading your story, he considers him like the prophet. This is the one who brought truth to humanity. All right. When you get to Stoicism and within Virgil and the Aeneid, you'll see the character of Aeneas is a Stoic, is the model of a Stoic. Once again, the aim there is knowledge, of course, always, but the knowledge that will be able to be applied to something serious. For Epicureanism, this week, Lucretius, the knowledge you're going to get will set you free, all right? Set you especially free from anxiety of the mind. What are we afraid of? We're afraid of death. We're afraid of being punished. We're afraid of, okay, this is a philosophy. If you follow Lucretius, and he'll give you a remedy, which I'll let you see, it's a simple remedy. If you follow his recipe, you will find yourselves being set free from, you'll be reducing as much as possible pain in the body. That'll be the aim of life. Reduce pain in the body as much as you can and get rid of all the anxieties of the mind. The more you can do this, the happier you will be, the more fulfilled you will be, the more of a human you will be, right? So this is the Epicurus. Stoicism will then, because they were at the same, they came out from the same period in Greece, but they are now in the same period in Rome. The Stoic will tell you, no, we both want the same thing. We want peace of mind. Peace of mind is the big thing now. No longer just knowledge for its own sake. You want knowledge that will give you peace of mind in this global empire, this global village. All right? The Stoic is going to tell you the opposite. He said, if you live like that, you'll never have peace of mind. The only way to get peace of mind is to do your duty. The more you are responsible, the more you do your duty, the more you have peace of mind. Okay, so it'll take you in that opposite direction. The fly sheet gives you basic items of both Epicureanism and Stoicism, and it's useful for you to have this general context before you go into Lucretius and Virgil, the two representatives of Roman philosophy. But I wanted you to get the picture here of that as you move from context to context, the type of philosophy that people will naturally you do or be attracted to is, of course, going to be affected. Coming back now, okay, so the whole, whole business of philosophy into which this is now being placed. You see, Epicureanism and Stoicism are basically philosophies of life. Okay, it all starts with Socrates and his, what he represents. Then his two, the two followers, the two most important followers. And by the way, it's important for you to know that Socrates, actually everybody claimed Socrates as their muse. Epicureans, Stoics, Plato, Aristotle, Cynics, everybody, all the different philosophies that came out of Greece, all claimed Socrates. That's why Socrates has kind of become an icon, a symbol, beyond just the actual person. But Socrates has become kind of the symbol of the man of philosophy, the seeker of truth, the seeker who's ready not just only to preach, but to practice what he preaches. And that's what that painting shows, of course. By the end of his life, if you haven't been told that in your classes, because we don't do the apology anymore, the dialogue which gets it all going, Socrates is condemned to death by the democracy of Athos. The democracy had become very, very corrupt. This is one of the reasons Plato tries to find a different structure for society. Not a utopia, but looking at democracy and oligarchy and all the ones that are present, Plato looks at them all and says, they're just not working properly. We have to have a radical transformation of the mind and of the human so that we can really get to what would be the republic, what would be something better as a community. That was the point of his work. So Socrates is condemned to death, but in good Middle Eastern fashion, wasta, nepotism, has its effect. So what you have here are all the people who wanted to set Socrates free. He's condemned to death. An execution was you were given a bit of poison, hemlock, you took it, and you died. So the friends of Socrates came in and tried to set him free. They had gotten him a wasta, had gotten him, the favoritism was working, and he refuses. He says, I've been living according to my principles. I'm going to die according to my principles. If they wish to kill me unjustly, that's their problem, because a great Socratic formula was belief was, when you're doing something wrong, you're harming yourself. You're not harming others. You're harming others externally, but you're warping yourself. You are the creator of your own being, in a sense, if you want to flip it over to existentialism in the 20th century. You create yourself by your decisions, by your actions, so in a sense, you make yourself who you are. Socrates his principle was, when you're unjust, you're harming yourself. You're warping your own soul, all right? So he goes to his death on that basis. He's not going to do something unjust. He's not going to accept wasta. Silly, subtly. Okay, as we would say in love, those of you who are listening, some of you, and I'm sorry to interrupt anybody who's having their own private conversations, but this happens in life. What can you do? My mummy told me never, I've told you this before. My mummy told me never interrupt somebody, when they're speaking. And I'm so sorry, because I look out there and I see I'm interrupting some of you. Mother, forgive me, she's dead now. Okay. Primarily, basically now, the Socratic search for truth goes into, Plato and Aristotle, as we've said before. Now into Rome, and Rome, a famous icon of Rome is the Colosseum, where lots of fun happened. More important, however, is the Republic of Rome and the Senate, and this will be more important for you next week, in 2 weeks' time, with the Virgil lecture on Stoicism, because Stoicism primarily interfaces with Republican Rome. And the Republican Rome, when you come to Virgil, keep this in mind. Republican Rome had more or less the same cultural values that the Greek Stoicism philosophy had. And so in Greece, it didn't flow much. Here now, Stoicism became one of the most important philosophies of the Roman world, and it influenced a lot of what happened in Rome. The Republic, Rome as a republic, not as a monarchy, not later on as an empire, but Republican Rome, the virtues of Republican Rome. You'll visit them in 2 weeks' time when you talk about Virgil's Aeneid. And remember that this is the Stoicism part of this fly sheet you have here, that there'll be something for you there. The empire changes things, and now we are in the empire. And of course, you know what this is if you've had a proper education. This is the Stoa. For the Stoics, the slave who became a philosopher. You'll see in Stoicism, everybody could be. If reason is what unites everyone, those who have reason are all equal. This means those who don't have properly, sufficiently superior reason, are not really equal to everybody else. Lucretius and Epicureanism is where we happen to be right now. That Virgil, that's next week. So, let me now try to tell you a little bit about the Epicurean way of life, or the Epicurean philosophy. The garden represents kind of this attitude towards life. Don't take life too seriously in the sense of thinking you have been put on this earth for the sake of the polis. If you read Oedipus that way, that was what Sophocles was trying to present through the character of Oedipus, and then later the character of Antigone, and some of these great things, that you're made to serve the polis, even at the cost of your own life. Right? And that was the Oedipus model. Basically, now, in terms of the political situation, your political responsibility, which is so important for Plato. Remember, Plato's philosopher is not fully enlightened until he recognizes his own mind will force him to come back down. The force at the end is not physical force. The philosopher who's seeking enlightenment is not yet enlightened if he doesn't recognize he has the responsibility to go down and risk his life to come back to the cave, to come back and give his knowledge to the polis. This was Plato. Now, Epicureanism wants to set you free from all of these responsibilities, which for him are irrational. The only rational thing is for you to use reason to give yourself the minimum of pain in life and the minimum of anxiety in life. All right? This is the main thing. Have any of you heard of hedonism ever in your... Okay. What's hedonism primarily? What's the main thing you seek as a hedonist? Pleasure. All right? And when we get to utilitarianism, because you had the word utilitarian if you're listening to things I was reading, utilitarianism later on, okay? Utilitarianism will tell you the masters of human life are pleasure and pain. Not the search for truth, the search for wisdom, help the polis, all this stuff. These are, you can take them any way you like. The only rational thing for you, because these are all philosophies, and therefore they're all claiming to be the true use of the rational mind. Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, each in their own way, and now Epicureanism and Stoicism. This is the best way to use your mind. The best way, philosophy. Basically, live your life in such a way that you minimize the pain, so therefore, bodily speaking, drink but don't get drunk, have sex but make sure it's safe, right? Don't, get the pleasures you get from life, there's nothing evil in itself, and there's nothing good in itself. Evil is that which gives you pain, good is that which gives you pleasure. So if these are the two masters of human life, pain and pleasure, that sets the way for you to guide your life, all right? And this is the remedy to take away suffering in life, you see. The two things, suffering in life and a guide to life. The two things, not just seeking truth for its own sake, but if you go back to those quotes at the end, the last two are, we're not seeking philosophy just for its own sake, we're seeking for its effect, lessen suffering, and to give us a guide to actually live the life we have to live every day. So, if you want to be a good Epicurean, that's first of all, therefore, your focus should be, I'm going to use my mind as a kind of calculating machine. I'm going to calculate how much pleasure will this give me, but how much attendant pain. We call it side effects when you start taking medicines, right? Every medicine has a side effect, all right? So every pleasure has a side effect. If the side effect is worth taking for the sake of the pleasure, then rationally go for it. Right? If it isn't, then it's not rational. So it's not just every pleasure. Hedonism, just simply pleasure. See, so this is now the rational human being's hedonism. Hedonism is not a rationalistic philosophy as such. It's just simply hedonism. Simply means, go for it, eat, drink, and be merry. Tomorrow you die. The basic wisdom of Siduri and Gilgamesh, if you remember that. Basically, now it's become a philosophy of life. Epicureanism, all right? So Epicureanism now is the intelligent human being's hedonistic life. Therefore, you're still seeking to maximize pleasure and minimize pain, but if you do it properly, you'll recognize that this will mean something you might not like as a conclusion. You're going to have to minimize the pleasures you seek, right? So that you will minimize the attendant pain that comes from them. So you can't just go for whatever you like. You want to get drunk, but tomorrow something's going to happen. You want to take drugs, but that that's going to have an effect on you. You want to take somebody's wife or somebody's sister or somebody's daughter. You have to factor in what might happen to you as a side effect. Okay, so you go for everything you want to go for, but intelligently. All right, that's for the body, to minimize suffering in the body. Now, what about the mind? Because that's the main thing. How do you minimize pain in the mind? Well, pain in the mind is anxiety. Well, focus. What is it that mainly gives you pain in the mind? Well, okay, you fear death. You fear the gods. You fear what might be waiting for you after death. All right? You fear trying to do something in the political world, and you're going to get attacked. You're going to get persecuted. You may even get assassinated. All right? Therefore, you should take the logical conclusion from all of these. Have very few friends, first of all, because only choose the friends who are like you, so you won't have lots of trouble with them. Anxiety comes from, having to be challenged by the friends you have, right? Don't fear. He's going to now give you a quote unquote scientific recipe. It's not really scientific because the conclusions make it not a science, make it ideology, but it's an ideology based on certain scientific analyses. What is the world made of, really? Let's take a look at the sheets now. So we'll see how he can free you from pain in your mind. So if all the stuff on this is useful for you to take a look at the details. I want to focus on the main points that I try to give you in this lecture. All right? The aim and purpose of Epicureanism on the second page, all right? For the individual, a mind at ease, the blessing of quiet peace. So peace is not like peaceful relationships. It's peace, Heikki, that nothing's bothering you. So you have many different meanings of peace. Peace can simply mean nothing is bothering you, but you can be from some other point of view, you can be a big slob, because you're sort of avoiding your responsibilities. You're not doing all you want is to have your own personal peace. The idea of peace in the Greek and Roman world was meaning relationships, order in the polis, order in your family, order in what you're doing. Peace is order, not just a feeling of peace. Today, when you talk about peace, you think of that. Well, the Epicureans were the ones who first stressed this. That's what we want, really. It's just the individual peace. Peace in the world is good, of course, but only so that I can have individual peace, not for its own sake. There's nothing good in its own sake. There are no intrinsic worthwhile things to seek for. For the people of Rome, untroubled peace in this evil hour of my country's history, because the Roman Empire was a very turbulent place. The method to achieve the aim is through Venus, not Mars. Make love, not war. Have you ever seen that slogan? Or are you beyond that generation? There was a generation of hippie people and flower people. Make love, not war. Venus is the goddess of, this is Aphrodite now. The Roman gods, by the way, were basically the Greek gods, but with a different name. So Venus is Aphrodite. Ishtar, Aphrodite, Venus, Haifa, it goes on. Not Mars. Mars is the god of war. Ares in the Greek, Mars. This terror, this darkness of the soul, you see now the mind. How do we get peace of mind? That's the main thing now. Must be dispelled neither by the rays of the sun nor by the bright weapons of the day, but an understanding of the outer form and the inner law of nature, the cosmos. Once we understand its nature, tragedy, you don't have to worry about tragedy and all the stuff that comes from that, all right? And you don't have to worry about the philosophers. And, for the philosopher says the cosmos, we can understand its laws. But we need to seek it properly. Science and philosophy and dedicated search for truth and all this, and we can understand the laws of the cosmos. He is now going to give you, Epicurus, taking it from the Greek Epicurus, he's now going to make it more popular. There's a different approach to the cosmos. The cosmos, now I'm going to tell you how you can understand the cosmos, neither in the tragic way nor in the Plato or Aristotle understanding of the universe, the cosmos. The cosmos, basically, we'll see, is primarily materialistic, made of atoms. Everything is atoms and the void. That's all there is in the universe. All right? The universe is self-enclosed. It's eternal. It doesn't. It has no creation. There's no beginning to it. It's eternal. But what is it? Homer's cosmos, has developed throughout history all the way up to Darwin. Right? It was still the universe is a fixed structure, and you can understand its laws. And Newton thought all the laws of the physical laws would be discovered by the time of his death. And you get relativity theory, you get quantum mechanics, you get the explosion that you had in the 20th century in science. But basically, this is the picture. But now it's not for science, you see; it's for the human. The way you understand science, in a sense, will help you to understand yourself. So for them, get away from the tragic understanding of the cosmos. It's too deep for you to ever know what's happening, and on the contrary, it's probably going to be more against you than for you. See, that's going to cause you lots of pain and anxiety. Well, then maybe I'm going to have happen to me what happened to Oedipus. Or now the philosopher, the Plato, who wants to kick all these people out of his republic and say, no. Once you understand the cosmos, its rational laws, all right, all the gods can be understood in terms of forms, the form of wisdom, the form of beauty, not Aphrodite, but the form of beauty, not Athene, but the form of wisdom. That's what Plato was doing, rationalizing all the gods. We get to Lucretius. Now he's going to tell you, I can give you a more radical solution than either of these other two ways of understanding the cosmos. The cosmos is nothing but atoms falling in a vacuum, in the void. Atoms and the void. All right? Atoms and the void. Now, Epicurus' philosopher was strictly deterministic. Determinism, you see, however, can bother you, because determinism takes you back to, well, maybe my fate is the fate of an Oedipus or something like that. You can start worrying about what is your fate and your determinism. So he invents this swerve. He says they're all falling in straight lines through empty space. That's all there is in the cosmos. All right? They swerve. Every once in a while they swerve and they come together and something comes up. You start to get things. What are the gods? The gods are simply very fine things. So everything is part of this material cosmos. All right? And the gods themselves are only just very refined atoms. And the good news is, because the second thing is the fear of determinism is gone. However, there's the fear of the gods. Yeah, but what are the gods? The gods are good Epicureans. The gods are simply the model for you, the role model for you. They don't want to waste their time on you to judge you or to hold you accountable or to take you to a hell or to something like that. The gods could, have better things to do in their lives. They are the perfect Epicureans. They seek their own comfort forever. That's all the gods are, refined atoms. They appear to you in visions and in dreams and things like that, but they don't really interfere with anything you're doing. So, number one, you see, if you follow his system, you've been freed of the fear of fate and determinism by the swerve. So things happen, in fact, randomly. So it's a random universe, not a deterministic universe. All right? Secondly, the gods. All right? The gods are just wonderful Epicureans. What they want to do is minimize their pain and their pleasure, and therefore they would never interfere with anything outside of their own affairs. And from this, you should be getting your model for how you should look at society and politics. Stay away from politics. All right? Politics can only give you a headache. Look, the gods stay away from things, so model them after that. So now you're free of the fear of the gods, and therefore with that a fear of the afterlife and being punished in a hell or something when you die, or even now being punished by something other than yourself. And basically then the final thing, of course, is the fear of death. Okay, well, what is it? If you are simply atoms that have come together in a swerve, when you die, what happens? These atoms disintegrate. There's the law of conservation of matter and energy. All right? Nothing is created, nothing is destroyed. All your atoms go back into the whole flow of things, and they continue in this eternal reign with swerves. That's all it is. So why should you fear something you're not going to feel anything by? So supposedly, if you follow this remedy, you're free of the fear of fate and determinism and the Oedipus complex. You're free of the view of that there are gods or an afterlife or a hell or accountability, in other words, beyond just what you have to be careful of in society, so that you don't get punished by society. But there's no higher accountability of any sort. There's not even your own conscience, if you like, or reason for Plato and Aristotle and Socrates, which will punish you because you're not following reason at its highest levels. All right? There's nothing like that. It's just, that's all. Life is that simple. If you just take this simple view of the cosmos, you will be set free from so much of what has bothered you through philosophy and religion and all these other systems that kind of lead you to have so much worry and the political responsibility that the Stoics take over, you see, from Plato. But Epicurus is saying, no. Don't think you have to come back down into the cave. You get enlightenment, keep it for yourself. You don't have to give it to anybody else. The whole political responsibility aspect of Plato's cave is you're set free from all of that. So this is basically, therefore, on that sheet, atomism and materialism. You get more material there. Nature, not the gods. It's just nature. It's just the universe working on its own. There's nothing behind it. Religion, superstition, piety, all this stuff, worrying about the gods and which god is going to bother you. And if you don't take care of all of the gods, the whole superstitious atmosphere of polytheistic religions, that where there's so many gods, you have to keep appeasing them. You've got to be careful. This is why Oedipus had to worry about which of these gods, if you remember the play. Which of these, which god has made you do this? They ask him. Well, it was Apollo, but it was my own hand. If you remember some things from the play there. So now he wants to set you free from all of this. Religion, and remember that's a big word, so be a little bit critical when you talk about religion as a word. For him, mainly the polytheistic religions of his day were full of this kind of superstitious, fearful atmosphere. All right, all this is obviously not going to help you have peace of mind and withdraw. So, what is true piety? What is true religion? True religion is rather in the power to contemplate the universe with a quiet mind. This is religion. Religion, finally, should be religion of the mind, where you can look at the cosmos, you can understand everything in the world, you can live according to the Epicurean ideal. With a quiet mind, you can take a look at it. This is worship, if you like. That replaces the worship that's there in the polytheistic religions. The human being now, sensation is more important than reason. Pleasure, delight is the guide of life. Third page. Free will, I've already spoken about that, a result of the swerve, so you've broken from any fear of fate. Mortality of the soul, we have nothing to fear in death. Society, politics, we must release ourselves from the prison of affairs and politics. See, you're being set, if you've been following me, you're being set one by one from all the things that really would give you. Justice is not something in itself, but it's the way you deal with other human beings according to the convention. So, be intelligent in the way you do that. Don't worry about justice as some kind of ideal you have to live for, a revolution, a reform, a barif-shu. Justice is simply, the way people, the set conventions, and, live within them and protect yourself as much as possible. Friendship, of all the things which wisdom acquires to produce the blessedness of the complete life, far the greatest is the possession of friends. It's not so much our friends' help that helps us, but the confidence of their help. Friendship is very, very important. The garden was where Epicureans would come together in this nice, atmosphere of nature, and with very carefully selected friends who are all Epicureans like yourself, so you don't have any philosophical arguments and stuff like that, But that's very, very important. You should have friends, but friends because they'll help you to have peace of mind, not somebody you can actually help or somebody you can do something for or anything like that. But basically because without them, you'd be leading a pretty miserable, lonely, solitude, isolated life. So the conclusion there, the wise man, the sage for the Epicureanism is seek pleasure. That's what gives you happiness, but do it intelligently, as I've been trying to tell you. Follow your nature, and your nature is a seeker of maximizing pleasure, minimizing pain. That's reason, that's following nature. Pick the day, make the most of each day. Don't worry about tomorrow. Take each day as it comes. Face it with your philosophical arsenal, and do it each day by day. Live hidden. Well lived who lived hidden away. Don't be too exposed. Don't expose yourself in politics or in, all this other sort of stuff. Live well hidden. All right? This is basically the basic wisdom, if you like, of Epicureanism. So I did want to put it into the two contexts. The context of a shift from Greece to Rome. So you see the human, sociological shift, radical shift from the, you can think of it as a little bit similar to living in a, still in a traditional society somewhere, all right? And then coming into either, Beirut or Tokyo or New York or, any of the cosmopolitan world, the kind of human challenge that will face you when you come out of a relatively protected place where, basically people on the same page on main things, and you come in and suddenly you have to make your way amongst all the various things. That's the shift that's happening, and therefore the philosophical shift, not that Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle ever got lost. Cicero and other people in the Roman world were very much still following things in the Socrates, Plato, Aristotle tradition. But the new items and the things that became very popular in the Roman were Greek Epicureanism and Greek Stoicism becoming popular because in a global village they have much more attraction. Very few people really are interested in seeking truth for its own sake. Usually you want a philosophy, life that will give you something practical to do. The other thing, though, was to place it in the critical realm as we go through CVSP and critical thinking. Often it's presented as if this is a scientific view of the universe. So please put into your minds from now to start to understand the difference between what is scientific and what is scientistic. Scientific means the pursuit of truth and, recognizing science is ongoing and recognizing its limits and recognizing all the wonderful things you're doing there and how you do science and what science is. Scientism is when you take out of science a philosophy of life, an ideology, and that's fine, ideologies come from everywhere. But the ideology is not science. So scientism, anyone who follows Epicurus, because Epicurus could give you a way of being an atheist in the modern world, fine. But you're not taking his science, you're taking his ideology. So scientism is wherever, in whatever way you choose, you focus on something that's happening in the world of science as in the way we understand science, and make out of it an ideology. All right? Then if that's your ideology, that's fine, but that is not science. In the early 20th century, the philosopher of science, Popper, whom we used to do in CVSP 204, made this distinction between science and pseudoscience, because in the 20th century, this became very, very common. People harping onto a scientific development or discovery and making out of it a philosophy of life, pretending it is scientific. There is pseudoscience and there is science. And pseudoscience is the world of ideologies, and everybody goes into ideologies, but as long as you realize it's not science, you can stay open in your ideology. You can realize it's not the last word. The science that you're now basing it on may change. So scientism versus science is something I want to put in a seed in your minds. I hope it will start to make some more difference as you go along into other views. Let me just see how much time I have. As of next year, we will be having this lecture given by Professor Nader al-Bizri, who's something of a specialist in this kind of material. So come back and listen to his lecture on Lucretius next year. Right now, I am sort of in transition between David Risley used to give the lecture on Lucretius and waiting for somebody new to give it. So I'm the joker. Whenever there's a gap, I come and give it. I hope what I've said today is somewhat useful, helping you to place it in the world of 201, coming through how the human mind interacts with folk religion. Could be one topic for what you've done so far. Homer, you see, takes the folk religion and the gods of the religion and organizes them. Please listen to this because it's a bit of a review. I think it's useful for you to think about one way or another. Basically, Homer has taken the religion and the superstitions and all this. He's already taken it and put it into, given it organization, giving it order. All right, so no god can trespass on the lot of another god. Athena cannot help Odysseus on the sea, only there. And when Zeus wants Poseidon to do something, he cannot force him to do it. All right, he's taken all the gods and all the great sort of chaotic fear of the gods, if you like, and given it more of a stability, more of a sense of order. So already Homer has been rationalizing in his own way. All right, but through poetry, through art, but rationalizing in the sense of giving order and organization to the gods. Plato comes and remythologizes all of these gods and says these are the forms. Because by form he means things that are very important, very powerful. They affect your mind, all right? Therefore they're gods, all right? But now what are the gods of Plato? They are simply the same Homeric gods remythologized, taking out of them all the evil, because he wants to make the divine perfect and good, all right? But they represent the forms, the main forms of Plato are simply a remythologization, a re-expression in a more sort of rationalistic way, the gods, okay? And Socrates, you see, one of the things that they condemn Socrates for is they call him an atheist, because he doesn't believe in the gods the same way everybody's believing in He's not an atheist. He was trying to refine their religion. All right? He was not an atheist at all. Aristotle was not an atheist. He built statues finally to Athene and Zeus in the thing. But the understanding of religion was becoming refined through philosophical investigation. Epicurus, because he's Greek, he's not Roman really. Epicurus, at that early period, was looking for an alternative, and therefore that it gives you his particular philosophy. Of course, supports much, much more a conclusion about life that it's atheistic, although he thought they were gods, but they don't have anything to do with us. But it's always, this is the interaction really between religion and philosophy throughout the century. One way of looking at it is humans always have a religion. They always have something in their society, whether the religion becomes your, Freud and Hawking and the people you worship today, or, Haifa or whatever, okay? They always have things that they worship, okay? The critical function of philosophy is to be taking a look at these, see how worthwhile they are. Is it worth following this one? Is it worth worshiping this one, etc., etc.? The mind is always sort of filtering the aspect of the divine, because there's always a divine in human life, something. Right? But what is that divine? Okay, that's what, the interaction between, if you like, religion and science, the two, as if they simple animals, called religion and science. But the critical aspect of all of this, you see in 201 already, if you take note of it, Homer, to Socrates and Plato and Aristotle, to Epicureanism and Stoicism. Right? Stoicism will come back to more of the kind of the Aristotelian picture of the world again, and more the Socrates, Plato, Aristotle world, but in its own way, adapting it, making it a practical philosophy of life, and giving you a final conclusion. They give you dogmas, Epicureanism and Stoicism. You believe in their dogma, you follow, you get peace of mind. All right? Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, supposedly the endless search, the never-ending search for truth, the pursuit of knowledge. So play around with these if they mean anything to you, and thank you for your attention.